Welcome to video 3.3, Embedding AI in Your Digital Strategy, from the Leadership Toolkit in the Safe and Effective Use of AI in Education online resources. AI should be considered as part of your school's wider digital strategy. Key considerations include vision. Define a clear purpose for using AI to support teaching, learning and operations. Strategic alignment. Link AI use to your school development plan. Infrastructure. Ensure your system can support safe, effective AI use. Staff skills. Invest in training so that staff can use AI confidently and critically. The DFE's guidance states that AI has the power to transform education by helping teachers focus on what they do best, teaching. To create a safe and effective AI environment, there are some key things that you can consider. Ensure your use of AI is compliant with your statutory duties in keeping children safe in education guidance and the filtering and monitoring standards. Ensure alignment of your digital strategy with your school or college's strategic development planning and wider priorities. Consider how your use of AI aligns with your organisation's broader alignment with education philosophy and school vision and values. You may decide to develop an AI policy or incorporate AI use into existing policies to address data governance, intellectual property, privacy, equity, teacher and staff training, curriculum integration, safeguarding, and ethical considerations. Create a clear infrastructure roadmap that outlines the hardware, software, and network upgrades needed to support AI applications and data storage. Establish a team that will help to provide guidance, training, and technical support. Evaluate AI tools carefully to make sure they'll positively impact on staff workload and effectiveness. Monitor or audit your school or college's use of AI to assess the effectiveness of AI implementation and identifies any areas for improvement. And finally, develop an AI steering group.
It feels like a very central strategic conversation that requires resource management, finance, pedagogical leaders with pedagogical ambition, and governance colleagues being very close to it. So, whilst of course, I would encourage the opposite of joined up. I would not encourage the opposite of joined up leadership, which would be siloed activity. I would argue that mature organisations would do that by default.
JISC recommends 5 actions for college leaders. These are:
lead by example. Make good use of tools yourself. Set boundaries to enable exploration. Define clear guidelines for AI use to encourage experimentation. Invest in staff development. Ensure educators are equipped to support students in an AI-driven environment. Create an AI culture. Foster curiosity and critical thinking about AI within the school or college. Collaborate with industry. Learn from businesses how AI is transforming the workplace. When exploring AI for use in your school or college, it's crucial to address key questions about your policies to ensure safe and effective integration. As a leader, your understanding and approach to these policies will significantly shape how AI is used within your educational setting. Here are some key considerations. What is your school or college's stance on AI? Does your approach acknowledge AI's potential to enhance teaching and learning, personalised learning and administrative processes? Does it encourage responsible AI use whilst recognising the need for accountability? Do your students know your stance on AI? Have you acknowledged that there's still a lot to be known, particularly around long-term effects of enabling AI use for students or pupils? Are your existing online safety and safeguarding policies up to date? You may want to consider interweaving AI into existing safeguarding policies and procedures, or create a standalone AI policy. You could review and update existing policies to address AI-related terminology, such as potential harms, deepfakes and student-generated images, and establish clear reporting mechanisms for any safeguarding or wellbeing concerns linked to AI. What training and support will staff receive? Ensuring staff are adequately trained is essential. Does your school or college have sufficient training to make sure staff are equipped with the knowledge and skills to confidently integrate AI into their professional practice and prepare pupils and students for a future shaped by AI-driven innovation and opportunities? This can include using the staff toolkit linked to this leadership toolkit, which can be used alongside other CPD programmes that are available. What training and support will your pupils or students receive? What is the context of your setting in terms of digital equity and literacy for staff and students? Does everyone have access to the same hardware or tool? Can all users access them in the same way with the same degree of competence?
I think there are three grounding questions that we should start with. The first, what are the standards that we want to raise? Secondly, what are the problems that we need to solve? And thirdly, what are the opportunities we want to create? Now, if we can't answer those clearly, perhaps we aren't ready to choose a tool yet. Technology should be a lens, not a loudspeaker. It must clarify our vision, not distort it. Now, once we're clear on purpose, the next step is thinking about alignment. We should hold every potential tool up against our school development plan. What's it here to support? Teaching, planning, inclusion, safeguarding? What difference is it going to make? Now, if a tool isn't going to have a strategic impact on our school and it's not going to move the needle on something core for our purpose, it might well be a distraction rather than a priority. This is about selecting tools that amplify what works, not just what's new.
Well, right from the start, we basically wanted to provide an AI strategy which was for everyone in the trust, not just for teaching staff, but for non-teaching staff, parents, governors, and of course, students. We started off with a four-phase approach. Phase one is the research. So we were researching best practice from around the world. We were looking and reviewing AI itself, and we were starting to look at sort of how others were creating strategies. Phase two is the build process. So we were then starting to, again, create the processes and put things into place. We were creating groups, setting up groups within the trust. These include a governance group, AI champions group, AI focus group, an AI leaders group, which are the students themselves. With this, we've been moving forward step by step. The third stage is the training stage, because you can have all of the processes and everything in place, but unless you give appropriate training regular, then it won't succeed. So we've been actually we've got quite a robust training program which is trust-wide, but we also work with departments, we work with individuals, and then the fourth stage is the AI literacy rollout, and this means basically sort of looking at how we can develop the AI literacy skills of both students and staff. And it isn't just about learning the tools, it's about everything to do with ethics, bias, the benefits, the risks, and so on, so that they really understand AI, the fundamentals. By producing a strategy, a plan where the AI is deemed to be safe, and providing lots of opportunities to discuss AI, so that people who are a bit nervous or can actually talk through what their concerns are.
And I feel that our head teachers have kind of been gently supported and nudged to see the benefits. And obviously we're dealing with a lot of different leaders that have different beliefs and ethics. So showing them the benefits and gently guiding them to achieve what we're aiming to achieve at the end of this strategy has been the key.
We're still learning exactly how AI can best support student learning, but there's one principle educators need to keep in the front of their mind. If AI allows students to skip over the hard work of learning, it can harm their progress. This is reflected in findings from research in this area and also from cognitive neuroscience about how the brain builds lasting knowledge. Learning happens when students engage in what researchers call desirable difficulties, tasks that require genuine mental effort and struggle. When a student wrestles with recalling information from memory, working through a complex problem step by step, or explains a concept in their own words, their brain is actively encoding and consolidating that knowledge into long-term memory. Many researchers have likened it to building a muscle. The resistance is what makes you stronger. The same principle applies to learning.
If AI becomes a shortcut that removes this productive struggle, it can prevent the formation of the neural pathways needed to learn something from forming in the first place. For example, if a student asks AI to summarise the text they haven't actually read, or to solve multiple-step physics problems without working through it themselves, they're bypassing this exact cognitive processes that would help them learn. The AI might give them the answer, but the student hasn't done the thinking that creates genuine understanding. This is why we need to be thoughtful about when and how AI is used in learning contexts.
The Department for Education's Generative AI Product Safety Standards outline the capabilities and features that generative AI products and systems should meet to be considered safe for users in educational settings. They are mainly intended for EdTech developers to ensure that AI is safe by design, but schools and colleges will also find the standards helpful in assessing which AI products are safe for use in education. Key areas of the guidance include content filtering, activity monitoring, security, data protection, intellectual property, and standards on emerging harms, including cognitive offloading and emotional and social development. Schools and college leaders should ensure they have an effective child protection policy in place, which includes reference to online safety. This should be regularly reviewed to ensure that they are kept up to date with safeguarding issues as they emerge and evolve as set out in Keeping Children Safe in Education. As school and colleges staff, we must all be aware of the potential for AI tools to be used to generate misleading or harmful content, and look for opportunities to enhance pupils' and students' understanding about misinformation and deepfakes alongside the laws that are in place. Critical thinking and AI literacy are the terms often used to describe approaches that can be promoted within the existing curriculum. In addition, the National Centre for Computing Education has produced curriculum resources that support an understanding of online safety, AI, and the associated risks.
You will also need to consider the issue of academic integrity and the risk of students using generative AI to create academic work, vocational work, or work for formal summative assessments. You may need to consider your approach to homework tasks, focusing on tasks that can't be easily completed by AI. Clear guidance that may sit within your school or college's assessment, behaviour, or other policies will help students to understand expectations clearly. When it comes to formal summative assessments in qualifications, there is guidance from the Joint Council for Qualifications, or JCQ, on AI-generated content. It must be highlighted that many plagiarism detection tools might not be effective, and they must be evaluated for compliance with data protection and intellectual property laws. Remember, to simply upload student work to a free AI detection tool without permission is likely to breach intellectual property rights. With a free tool, there's also the likelihood that the model could learn from the work uploaded.
Yeah, so I think what's really interesting is we're at a point where AI is a very big part of the conversation, and we're oftentimes hearing that we're developing policies or guardrails specific to AI. And I think as you think more about these tools, these technology tools, and how they exist and what they intend to be, oftentimes they already fit into a lot of the policies that we've lined up, but we need to account for the technology of it all. So as we think about academic integrity, that's never changed. We've always wanted to look at academic integrity as a pathway for success. Now AI can bring in some problematic issues, or it can also help extend opportunity in academic growth. And so as long as you've got strong policies that recognize what we're trying to achieve, we can address some of those realities.
Your setting will likely wish to develop guidance on whether it's acceptable or appropriate to use generative AI tools. Schools and colleges may also wish to consider how they engage with parents, taking time to clarify the approach to AI and communicate how your school or college is making use of these tools. Parent engagement sessions and the inclusion of some of the risks relating to AI in parent online safety sessions, as well as regular tips in parent newsletters, could help to engage the wider community. As you evaluate your settings guidance to staff and students on AI, focus on clarity, safety, and ethical considerations. By proactively addressing these questions and implementing appropriate measures, you can lead your settings safely towards a future where AI enhances education responsibly and ethically, and where students are prepared with the knowledge and skills to thrive in an increasingly digital world.
AI can be considered as part of a wider digital strategy in educational settings in 3 key ways. So first and foremost, the school educators leaders need to consider what the school development plan or the school improvement plan priorities are. And because, that should run through everything we actually do. That then should actually link towards the digital strategy. So in terms of the hardware, software, websites, platforms that we use, it should prioritize what the key aspects of the school improvement plan are and think about how you can actually transform, make changes in that regard. And they really should be, you can have administrative changes, for example, can it help in terms of reducing workload, for example. But I think the key priority is looking at how we can actually aid student learning as well. Once you've got those plans in place or that key framework, then you can drill down into how the AI matches with that. I think that if you've got your AI as a standalone, with the best will in the world, it will not be successful because it's not a part of the wider and more strategic considerations. The SDP or SIP is fundamental, and everything should actually tie into that in order for it to be not just successful, but in order to ensure that there is longevity to the strategies that are being deployed from an AI and digital perspective.
So I think when we're thinking about why do we want to introduce AI, our first consideration is what are we trying to fix? What are we trying to address? And if our main priorities are recruitment and retention, then we might be looking at AI in the sense of reducing staff workload. If we're thinking about attendance and SMH, we might be thinking about, well, actually, we're looking at technology, including AI, to make the learning space more inclusive, more accessible for our learners. That's going to help support attendance. Maybe the workload aspect is we're talking not generative, but non-generative AI that's going to better analyse data so that we can have decision-informed, not decision-led data that supports leadership and staff in spotting gaps and interventions.
If establishing an AI working group, you should consider including representation from a range of stakeholders. These could include trust or college group leaders, teachers, lecturers, support staff, IT experts, IT leads, or representatives from your managed service provider or tech support company. It can be helpful to include general classroom practitioners with varying levels of digital literacy, as well as governors or trustees in your development, and a link governor for AI or digital technologies could support strategic alignment with wider priorities. It should be remembered that governors will also need support in understanding AI, which could be provided by a specific course for governors or them attending CPD in school. The staff toolkit would give a link governor a good understanding of the risks and benefits. Pupil or student voice is also important, and you may consider a range of ways to achieve this, including surveys, interviews, or involving pupil or student digital leaders.
A first step for me in creating a policy for a school is to ensure that student voice is part of the decision that you make when writing that policy. So at Good Future Foundation, for example, we have an incredible advisory council. So professionals who work in this space, who know education well, who know the technology well, and who are able to guide our work. But with the same level of power, on the other side of that, we have our student council. And these are young people aged between 15 and 22. Essentially, they can remember what learning felt like before AI became more mainstream and it was used in teaching and learning more readily. And for them, they could feel the difference when they were using an AI tool for their learning, whether that was task completion or research or preparing for an exam, versus what it was like before ChatGPT, for example, became more mainstream. Incorporating their voice into our work has really boosted my motivation, I think, when it comes to encouraging senior leaders in schools to do the same. It's not an unheard of practice, right, to bring in stakeholder voices from multiple areas of school life. But I think in this case, the implications of getting this right for your students are so significant. To have conversations with students around, is it okay to be evaluated by a machine? Do I feel comfortable knowing that what I write or what I produce is going to be graded by an AI? And how do I feel about that versus my teacher who knows me and understands me and is able to see my social context and to see me for who I am? There are all sorts of nuances within that, of course, but I think having student voice as part of the conversation for leaders that are moving in that direction, I think, is an essential piece of the puzzle.
Smaller schools may also wish to form a working group with other schools or across a school partnership, trust or local authority. Developing and sharing guidance and case studies can raise the profile of AI and help teachers and support staff take their initial steps in using AI tools.
We trained all the staff across the trust, and again, role-specific training, so it's about what they're doing in their tasks. So again, when I've moved to the central team, my workflows and the types of tasks that I've got have adapted. It's different to things that I was doing when I was teaching. And so things where, one example is we were looking with our HR processes about automating those.
It is important that all staff review related school or college policies, attend training and seek advice before using AI. Always make clear that only those systems that you have assessed as safe to use in an approved way should be used by staff in your setting. Any policy needs to be implemented and embedded in the schools through regular reminders in staff briefing and integration into your school or college CPD. You should also consider where AI can support your school or college operations. By integrating AI into management information systems, it can give insights that may not otherwise be possible. And these could support interventions around behaviour, attendance and progress. Due to the sensitive nature of this data, particular care needs to be taken over the contract in place and the way that the tool handles data, bearing in mind the advice within this toolkit on data security. Module 4 of the Staff Toolkit offers a range of examples of use to support business and operations, which will also be useful for schools or college leaders.
Continuing professional development, CPD, is an important part of supporting any implementation in your setting. Before introducing AI tools, it's essential that teachers and other school or college staff are aware of how to use them safely and effectively. The 4 modules in the Staff Toolkit provide strong foundations for AI use and will help to minimise risks and misuse. You also need to consider carefully how this training sits within your CPD programme, as a one-off training event is unlikely to have lasting impact.
So, the most important thing that we started off with was getting key stakeholders across the organisation together, and we formed an AI Governance Council. That included representation from directors of primary, secondary, our head of cybersecurity, CIO, our director of risk and compliance, and other multiple areas. We got together to really agree on what our AI principles were. And obviously, having everyone together, we agreed on what we would accept and what we wouldn't accept across all areas of education. We came up with our principles of use, we came up with our use cases, and then from there, we actually went out to then decide on which AI tools that we would approve. Now, with these approvals, we didn't want to absolutely approve every single tool. We were very, very cautious so that every single tool had to go through a very, very thorough cybersecurity check. We wanted to ensure that we protected our students' IP.
The EEF guidance highlights the importance of adapting CPD to suit the context it's delivered in. Once the safe and effective use is introduced, you can provide dedicated time for staff to explore approved AI tools, possibly by repurposing a staff meeting. Training on the safe use of these tools is paramount first.
As a starting point, the Staff Toolkit that accompanies this Leadership Toolkit can be downloaded and delivered in your setting by an appropriate person, or teachers can download the PowerPoint workbook and videos and work through them independently. The Staff Toolkit consists of 4 modules and is a resource for all staff. It covers Module 1, Understanding AI in Education. Module 2, Interacting with Generative AI in Education. Module 3, Developing the Safe Use of Generative AI in Education. Module 4, Use Cases for Generative AI in Education. We recommend that all 4 modules are completed by all staff as a foundation to using AI.
Once staff have a good foundation of safe and effective use, you can consider how the use of AI could be interwoven into CPD around school priorities. So, for example, a CPD session focusing on formative assessment could include carefully planned ways in which AI can support it, as approved by your setting. You could then include practical sessions on using AI tools safely and critically evaluating AI outputs.
Now, even the best tools will fail if staff don't feel confident and comfortable using them. So let's start with small pilots. If we make time for reflection and professional dialogue and we build a culture where staff are supported, then exploring, adapting and sharing learning becomes normal. Adoption without understanding is just jumping through hoops. And innovation is something that we can't just roll out, we have to grow into. So remember, it's about failing forwards. Let go of worrying about perfection and instead think about participation and progress.
Consideration also needs to be given to the career stage of different teachers. For example, for trainee teachers and ECTs, you may want to provide different support, such as focusing on the fundamental safe use and importance of human oversight and checking, and understanding effective planning and resources before using AI. Consideration should be given to those teachers and leaders who are studying MPQs. For example, those taking leadership MPQs may be able to support with implementation planning, whereas those taking the MPQ in SEND may bring new insights to a school or college working group looking at use of AI in SEND provision.
We've really focused on staff training throughout our journey. The opening inset day very much was to launch AI, to say, look, we're going to look at it, making it clear to staff at the outset what we felt was safe or not safe use of artificial intelligence. So that was really essential. The public large language models were available, and I think if we didn't have clear guidelines to support staff, it would have been easy for them to think it would be okay to put a class set of data into the open source models without truly understanding that that was training the large language model, that it was available in the public domain. So the first inset was focused on AI safety. How can you use AI safely with our data, the students' personal data, and make sure that what we're doing is ethical. From then, just giving them access to Gemini and the opportunity to play. So we had our partner come in and deliver some staff training. And then sporadically through the year, we've offered drop-in sessions.
To sustain the adoption of AI within the schools safely and securely, key messages need to be reiterated over time. Many schools use briefings or school meeting time to have short CPD sessions where teachers can share ideas, and AI could be the focus for some of these. If it's identified that any of the key messages from the teacher toolkit are being forgotten, you could consider showing key videos as reminders about safe and effective use. There are frameworks that can support the adoption of digital technologies and can help to frame thinking about AI models as part of a wider digital strategy. These tools may or may not be appropriate for your context, so it's important to think carefully about adopting a framework. Two of the most common frameworks are outlined below. SAMR. SAMR is a model to support technology integration developed by Ruben Puentedura. SAMR stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. It could provide a useful framework for leaders when you're considering how AI tools can support teachers in reducing workload, preparing resources, and assisting learners with SEND. At the substitution level, technology simply replaces existing tasks, such as generating lesson plan templates or summarising meeting notes. At the augmentation level, technology enhances these tasks. For example, using AI tools to refine classroom materials, generate differentiated worksheets, or suggest alternative explanations for complex topics. These kinds of uses can save time and help teachers focus on high-impact activities. In the SAMR model, technology plays a more transformative role when it comes to modification and redefinition. In modification, technology could offer new opportunities such as rapidly adapting resources for students, while still maintaining human oversight, or an AI-powered speech-to-text tool could be used. At the redefinition stage, technology enables entirely new ways to support both teachers and students, such as AI-powered tools that convert text into multimodal formats for accessibility, for example in the form of a podcast, video, presentation, or narration. Although the SAMR model was developed before generative AI use became widespread, it can be a useful lens through which to consider your use of technology. You don't always need to be aiming for the top of the SAMR model, but it can help you to reflect on how you're using digital technologies, including AI. TPAC. The TPAC model, short for Technological, Pedagogical and Content Knowledge, was developed by Mishra and Kohler in 2006. They created the framework to help educators understand the complex interplay between technology, pedagogy and subject content when designing effective teaching and learning experiences. For leaders looking to integrate digital tools to support teaching and learning, TPAC provides a valuable structure. It emphasises that effective use of technology in education is not just about the tools themselves, but about achieving a balance between technological knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and a deep understanding of the subject matter. The TPAT model is depicted as a Venn diagram with 3 areas. Content knowledge. This is what's being taught. Pedagogical knowledge. This is how it's being taught. And technological knowledge. The tools that support teaching and learning. Technology use should not be viewed in isolation, but as part of a broader approach where technology enhances rather than dictates classroom practice. Understanding the TPAC framework could help educators and leaders to implement digital tools in a way that supports teachers and improves outcomes for learners. Digital tools and AI must be integrated safely and thoughtfully. It's important to note that consideration should be given to your setting's capacity to deal with implementation. By embedding AI tools within the pedagogical knowledge domain, settings could try to ensure that its use enhances rather than disrupts teaching and learning. AI should support evidence-based teaching strategies such as scaffolding and formative assessment rather than leading to over-reliance on automation. A well-rounded digital strategy considers not just what AI can do, but how it fits into the curriculum and supports teachers as they use their professional judgment.
Finally, remember AI is a tool to support teachers and cannot replace them. Teachers need professional development to use AI tools effectively, ensuring that it aligns with strong pedagogical practice rather than replacing human decision-making. The same concerns that we have about students using AI to outsource thinking could apply to some teachers in their planning. Providing continuous professional development to staff as part of a wider AI and digital strategy, and regularly reviewing the effectiveness of AI tools can help to ensure they align with your setting's operational and strategic goals, as well as a wider digital strategy.